Pixar has been absolutely dominating the box office with, of course, Inside Out 2 earning, as of right now, over $1.1 billion at the box office, which is absolutely great. It's also been a good 4 or so years since I ranked all the Pixar movies, so it is time to rank all 28 Pixar movies from the worst to the best. Hey friends, welcome to the Disney Pastor. I'm your host Tim, and I talk all things Disney, which includes Pixar animation. Join me down in the comments below, giving me your ranking of all the Pixar movies. This is just my list, so it's my opinion. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below as we talk all things Pixar. That being said, I'm going to try to hit this in as quick of time as possible. The goal is 7 minutes or less. Hold me accountable. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Coming in last place is going to be Turning Red. Now, I very much recognize that I am not the target audience for this movie, and I understand that, but there are things in this movie I just can't stand. One of the things I really am frustrated by is going to be just the outright disrespect of parental units. Granted, that is part of the story and the arc, but the way they do it just feels so disingenuous to the teenage story, and it feels over the top and overblown. At the same time, I'm not a big fan of the animation. The story in and of itself is pretty decent. I like the idea, and they do a good job at explaining a lot of the different things that happens in the mind of a teenage girl. But the thing that bugs me most about this movie is going to be the whole Panda Pictures sequence. I'm not going to explain why this bugs me so much, but having heard a lot of things and having been in a middle school and high school, this just rubs me the wrong way, and that's why it's at last place. Coming in at number 27 is going to be The Good Dinosaur. The backgrounds for this movie are great, and the animation is very, very good. What this movie essentially makes up for the lack of a really great and drawing story. They do a little switcheroo of like dinosaurs are like the more intelligent species and humans are not. It's fine, but in terms of Pixar quality, it's not there. And it doesn't really feel like a Pixar movie. There's not the usual Pixar quips or Pixar shenanigans that kind of happen that you see throughout Pixar movies. This doesn't really have that. It feels uninspired in a lot of ways. Coming in at number 26 is Cars 2. I've mentioned this in the past with my What Makes Good Sequels video, but let me just get this out of the way. I like both ideas. I love the idea of a Grand Prix, and I love the idea of spies. I think putting them together doesn't work super well. The other thing is here is they take the fun, lighthearted side character and kind of make him the main character, which is okay to an extent in having some moments there, but it just doesn't work here, and that's the issue. Again, I like both ideas, and I know I'm probably going to get flack for how low this is on the list, but it had great ideas. The execution is not where it needs to be. Coming in at number 25 is going to be Finding Dory. I don't think we really needed this sequel at all. Let me just put that out there. And so there are moments I am pleasantly surprised with for this movie. It does a great job at kind of explaining Dory's origins, and it has some fun moments in introducing some new characters, and it does feel like the same world that we see, of course, in Finding Nemo. The thing that I'm not the biggest fan of with this movie is, while it is, yes, Finding Dory, it feels like all the other characters, specifically Nemo and Marlin, are very much put to the side, which is fine. I mean, it's Finding Dory, but pushed even further to the side, like off screen, if that makes sense. And so, I mean, you take a look at Finding Nemo, Dory, while is a side character, is still a very prevalent part of the movie. Marlin and Nemo don't feel very prevalent in this movie. At the same time, you have, once again, taking the fun, humor side character and making them the main focus of the movie, which seems to be the quip for the second movie for Pixar.
There's inductive reasoning, there's deja vu, there's language processing, there's deja vu.
Feels very familiar in that regard. It's okay, but it's not great. Coming in at number 24 is going to be Luca. I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. I already know. I appreciate Luca and Alberto's friendship. I think it's fun. I'm not a fan of the animation and the change of style. It just doesn't work for me. And because of that, this doesn't feel like a Pixar movie. I know, it's weird, but there's not any of the quips and none of the things that we expect from a Pixar movie. There's a great and beautiful friendship that is the backbone of this story, and the end resolve, like before Luca goes off to school, is done well. That's where I have another problem, is the whole story was about friendship and learning to step out of your comfort zone. At least that's what I got from the beginning of the movie. The end of the movie isn't that. It's, hey, let's add this side plot of Luca really liking school, and then we're going to use that as the end of the movie. And it just makes the ending feel unresolved and unfulfilled. And so that's why it's that low. Other than that, it's an enjoyable movie. Coming in at 23 is Cars 3. There was a lot of buzz and excitement, particularly for me, about this movie, and I was excited to watch it, see it, check it out. And the first half of this movie is really, really good. It's enjoyable. It's everything you love about the Cars franchise. And the problem for me with this movie isn't the villain, isn't the characters, isn't McQueen's journey. It's the plot twist for the sake of a plot twist. I like Cruz Ramirez. I think she's a fun character that was introduced. My tension here is that the whole entire story was about McQueen finishing the race, and we don't even see that. That feels unfulfilled and unsatisfying. We do a plot twist for the sake of it and throw a little homage to Doc Hudson, because why not? And I appreciate the references that they made to him, because he wasn't a part of Cars 2 at all. But man, it just, if you wanted Cruz Ramirez to have this grand, gigantic moment, it doesn't feel set up in the rest of the movie. And so that is where I have a big problem with this movie. It's not the plot twist, and I don't mind McQueen becoming the mentor. I think that was a natural step of evolution for him. But set it up in the movie rather than focusing on he's got to win the race. It doesn't feel set up. There's a disconnect, and that's where the issue is. Coming in at number 22 was Lightyear. When this movie was first announced, I remember making a video about it because this was very early in my channel, back when it had the original name of this channel. And I was excited for it, and then it came out, and it was pretty enjoyable. It wasn't the best Pixar movie ever made. The biggest issue I have is the plot twist. Zurg in Toy Story 2 was set up to be like, oh, I am your father. No, you have that whole scene, and it's great. It's fun. It's an homage to Star Wars. As a kid who was like 3 or 4, little did I know that it was an homage to Star Wars. But it was. And I mean, it's a fun reference. But that's the lore that's set up, and then you reverse it to be, oh, it's just an older version of him. Feels a little cheap. Again, a plot twist for the sake of a plot twist. It doesn't work here. It just doesn't. And overall, I don't mind the story. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. I like Chris Evans as Buzz. I think he did a solid job. But between the plot twist and then the middle of the movie just kind of felt could have been lightened up a little bit, maybe trimmed a little bit to be a little bit shorter. High hopes for this one. I wouldn't say I felt let down, but the more I watch it, the more I feel let down. Coming in at number 21 is Soul. I enjoy this movie for the most part. I think the interesting parts of the movie is definitely on Earth. I love the setting. I love the characters we get introduced to. All the stuff of like the afterlife or the before life, as I guess it's called. I don't know. It's okay. The idea of finding your spark, the thing you're good at, I get. But at the same time, like, things change over time. I mean, sure, there's things that stay in our life for our entire lives, but not everything is that. Priorities change and shift. The things that make us love certain things many, many years ago are going to be different today, or vice versa for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. A perfect example for me is that I used to be okay with dogs, but I wasn't a big dog person, right? Now, having had a dog in my life for the last 3-4 years, she's a big part of my life, and I love her to death, right? That wasn't me 10 years ago. That's changed, right? The career I'm in. 10 years ago, I wanted to be an actor. Now I work in student ministry. Things shift and change. The spark is going to be different throughout your years. So that isn't the best thing, in my opinion. I do like the idea of it, but the Earth stuff's the best part. Everything else is kind of okay. Cracking into the top 20 is going to be Brave, the first and only, so far, Disney princess done by Pixar. It's pretty good. It's enjoyable for the most part. I do think that it does feel, in some ways, kind of a knockoff Disney princess movie, but it has moments that are good, and it has moments that are just okay. The arc that Merida kind of goes through with her mom is done pretty well. It could be probably done, I think, a little better. And the hard part is that you have, I think, a better movie done by a much separate company that we won't talk about that deals with the Nordic / Ireland / Scotland / that whole area that's done a little better with more fantastical elements. And so this just feels like a try at getting at it, but it doesn't succeed. If you know what I'm talking about, yeah. Coming in at number 19 is going to be Toy Story 4. I was very worried when they initially announced a Toy Story 4. And the teasers got me excited, I'm not going to lie. Buzz and Woody will forever be two of my favorite characters of all time. Buzz especially is one of my favorite characters of all time. So there's a personal bias there. And so seeing another Toy Story film, yeah, sure, let's have fun. For the most part, I like it, right? I like Woody's journey. I think his arc is done very well. The animation's great. I love seeing Bo Peep again. My biggest issue is Toy Story has always been an ensemble film to me, where you don't have one lead character, right? If you, like, let's use the MCU as an example. Iron Man, the lead character's Iron Man. Toy Story's never felt that way. Toy Story has always been Buzz, Woody, Jessie, Bullseye, the rest of the gang. And this movie doesn't really have that. It doesn't have the rest of the friends a part of the story. It's mainly Woody, Bo, and Forky, which to an extent is okay, but Jessie's rarely ever used. Mr. Potato Head's barely in it. Rex is barely in it. Buzz, one of my favorite characters, has a decent role, but it's scaled back a ton. And then the ending also slightly pisses me off because those two were meant to be together for the rest of all in time, meaning Buzz and Woody staying together forever. And, they almost made me cry the entire time. So here we are. That being said, it's decent, but it could be better. Coming in at number 18 is going to be Elemental. This one was quite the surprise seeing it in theaters, mainly because the marketing for this movie kind of sucked. But it's an enjoyable rom-com. It isn't anything fancy. It isn't anything like super insane, but it was an enjoyable time and something new and unique for Pixar. It's done pretty well here. The one thing I will say is the whole side plot that they have could have been done a little better, could have been resolved earlier, but then you have the tensions with that. But overall, it's a pretty decent time. It's an enjoyable film. Coming in at number 17 is Monsters University. Everything from here on up is like an 8 out of 10 and more. These are really enjoyable films, so keep that in mind going forward. That being said, I really honestly enjoy this movie. Every time I go back to watch it, it's not one I watch a ton, but when I do, I really enjoy the story. I enjoy seeing Mike and Sully again. Monsters Inc. verse is enjoyable. It adds some wonderful world building into that world, and is overall just fun to see these two characters banter, go back and forth, see their friendship develop. It's done very well. It's a prequel that I don't think a lot of us were like wanting, but I am very glad we got. Coming in at number 16 is going to be Inside Out 2. The most recent Pixar movie is enjoyable. It's fun. Now, I know there's probably going to be people who are like, why is it rated so low on your list? Look, let me just look, okay? Pixar has a lot of bangers. There's a lot of great movies that Pixar has. That being said, though, I enjoy this film. I talked a bit more on it in my review. It's fun. If there is an issue, if anything, it feels like Joy's going through the same character arc again, just with a different MacGuffin, rather than it being sadness. It's about who Riley's core beliefs and all this other stuff. It just felt very similar to that. I enjoy the new emotions. I enjoy overall the story, and it's a fun time, and it's a really solid Pixar movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Into the top 15 is going to be A Bug's Life. This one is fun. It's probably aged the worst out of all the Pixar movies, but there's still a charm that this movie has. It is the weakest of the Toy Story to Toy Story 3 run that they had, which by the way is the greatest run of any studio, anytime, anywhere. Doesn't matter. It is an enjoyable film. It has some great characters, has some great moments, some great scenes, and overall is just really solid. Coming in at number 14 is WallE. It's an enjoyable time. It's one that surprises you because they don't use a lot of words. There's not much in terms of script, but the visual storytelling here is very, very, very good. And the relationship between WallE and Eve is also done very well. It also is a film that is very up in front about the message they're trying to send. And so I appreciate that, at least the environmental part. And overall, it's just a really enjoyable film that also has a great soundtrack. I don't know why. It just has a really good... Oh, because Michael Giacchino did it. That's why. That explains everything. It's an enjoyable movie. Coming in at number 13 is Incredibles 2, the long-awaited sequel to The Incredibles. Incredibles 2 is really enjoyable. I love seeing these characters again. Jack Jack is very much the star of this movie. I mean, come on, it's just so good. And I love being a part of the Incredibles world. It's really cool to see. I love how they switch the roles, having Helen be more of the hero in this one. And Brad Bird just does a really fantastic job delivering a great sequel. My one problem with this movie, however, is the villain twist was kind of predictable. I remember sitting in the theaters, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's it, isn't she? And, a few minutes later, ta-da, she's the bad guy. And so that was like, man, a little disappointing. But overall, everything else surrounding it, very enjoyable. Coming in at 12 is Onward. I know not a lot of people really like this movie, which surprises me because I really enjoy this one. I love the premise. As a fan of D&D, I enjoy kind of the lore and the world and the setting. And the idea of the relationship between a brother and a sibling is really cool. I'm not saying this hits home for me personally, because it doesn't. I'm very thankful and grateful for my father. But man, there's something heartstring-wise that this movie does for me. And it's really cool. I really enjoy this one. And yeah. It also has Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, which I'm always down to see both of them. And together in this movie makes it great. And they play some great characters. And yeah, it's an enjoyable time. Coming in just outside the top 10 at number 11 is going to be Inside Out. Man, what a movie. It's emotional, pun intended. And it is a really enjoyable movie. We get some great characters, a really great story with some great, I was going to say emotions, which is true, and it would have been pun intended again, which double enhances it. I don't know. It's really a fun movie. It's an enjoyable time from beginning to end. Great characters, great humor, and overall is a blast. And that Bing Bong scene is very disruptive. It's just, Coming in at number 10 is Toy Story 3, the wrap-up of the Toy Story trilogy, or the Andy trilogy, however you want to put it. This one is awesome. I thoroughly enjoy it. It has a great story. It is a story that I don't think any of us expected or any of us thought would be, but man, it is so well done. I love the character arcs that are in this movie, and it made me genuinely believe that I was going to lose all my Toy Story characters with the end there. That ending is traumatic with the fire and all that stuff. Lotso's a fantastic villain. There's a lot of great twists and turns here. There's not a plot twist for the sake of a plot twist. There's plot twists that enhance the story even more than it already is. And yeah, it's enjoyable, and the send-off that we get with the toys is, what a great moment to end off a great trilogy. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Coco. The music here, let's just start off with that, is wonderful. It's absolutely fantastic, and it is some really great Disney music. The setting is also done very well. I love the use of colors that they do in this one, particularly orange is done very well in this movie. And the story is great and wonderful as well. And the end resolve of this movie is done very well. It's a very family-centered movie. Every time I go back to watch this movie, I really enjoy it more and more. And this wasn't in my top 10 the last time I did this movie. So I know some friends of mine who got on me about that a few years ago. But anyways, this is a really enjoyable time. I thoroughly love this movie. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Finding Nemo. Man, this is a really charming story. This probably will change for me if and when I become a dad. But man, this story is really enjoyable. I love the characters. I love the story. The animation is gorgeous. And it just really delivers some fun moments. This is quintessential Pixar. I love this movie. It's fantastic. It's an enjoyable time. This is one I definitely rewatch a good decent amount, but not as much as number 7, which is Cars. This one I know for many of you is probably going to be in your top 5, maybe even your number 1. And I gotta tell you, I wish it was. I genuinely do, but there are so many movies on this list that it is very difficult to put it ahead of the other 6 for me. But this is a great movie with great animation, great characters, a great story arc for Lightning McQueen. We get just some wonderful, wonderful moments, and the setting of this movie is fantastic. The idea of Route 66. This movie made me want to go down Route 66. I still haven't done it, but this movie does remind me that that is a goal of mine at some point in the future. Gosh, I hope I can do it. That would be awesome. But seriously, this is a great movie. Coming in at number 6 is Up. This one has the best 15 minutes of storytelling without the use of dialogue. Like, there's barely any dialogue in the first 15 minutes, and it is done extremely well. It shows the beauty of life, some of the heartbreaks of life, and it's just done very, very well. Also accompanied by Michael Giacchino and his score. So good. That being said, I enjoy this movie a ton. It's quite the adventure, pun intended, and overall, you get some great characters. You get, once again, some really great moments, and the ending is also just super duper cool as well. This is a enjoyable movie. I know not everybody is they love the first 15 minutes and we love to talk about that, but I really enjoy the rest of the movie. I think it is just as good as the first 15 minutes, and that's why it's at number 6. But coming in at number 5 is going to be Ratatouille. I really thoroughly enjoy this movie. It's surprising because this wasn't near my top 5 at all. It was a little lower in my top 10 last time. But my most recent watch through, I really fell more in love with this movie. I love the setting. As someone who enjoys good storytelling, good music, also accompanied by cooking, is really cool. I spent a lot of my time in kitchens in the early years of working. And so getting to kind of reminisce a little bit about the good stuff, not so much the bad stuff, because there was a lot of bad stuff. But it's really enjoyable. It's so much fun, and it is something that's so random, but yet works so very well. And Remy's one of my favorite Pixar characters because of it. Coming in at number 4 is The Incredibles. In my personal opinion, this is not just one of the best Pixar movies of all time, but easily one of the best comic book movies, superhero movies of all time. They managed to characterize each of the family members in such a way that is very much a callback to what the norms are. Like Mr. Incredible, he's the dad. He's supposed to be super strong and tough. And you got Mom, right? Elastigirl. And she's all over the place trying to take care of the kids. And she's spread very, very far. You have Violet, who is in high school, and she's trying to figure out where she fits in, and a lot of the times she just wants to be invisible or have her own little bubble. Dash, he's, in elementary school and is so wired and so, contagious and wants to do all these different things and da-da-da-da-da-da and spouting out all these different things. So he's fast.
He's fast and she's weird.
And then Jack's just a whole bundle of emotions, which we don't see till later when he develops his superpowers to tease us, the audience, with what's to come. And it's just done very well. It has a great character journey for Mr. Incredible, for the rest of the characters. It's set in a really cool time frame, in my opinion. Also, once again, accompanied by the Pixar GOAT, Michael Giacchino, with another fantastic score. And overall, this is just a really great, dare I say, incredible movie. Pun very much intended, once again. Coming in at number 3 is Toy Story 2. I enjoy this movie a ton. I find it very enjoyable. This is, and as well as the next 3 movies, are can easily be interchangeable because of how much I enjoy them. I enjoy the different stories we get within this movie. I love the stuff with Woody and Jesse and Bullseye and Stinky Pete. And I love the stuff we get with Buzz and Rex and Ham and Mr. Potato Head and that whole crew. I just think it's done very well. The villain is really solid in here along with that. And it deals with some really tough questions of what happens when your kid grows up. I mean, we see that in Toy Story 3. But how they resolve it of we're going to be there for him every step of the way. And that's just done really well. It's an enjoyable time. It is just as good as the original. And that's hard to say with sequels. Coming in at number 2 is the original Toy Story. The first ever Pixar movie tackles the idea of what happens to your toys when you're gone. And it's a really fun premise. I enjoy it. The casting here is fantastic. Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, great chemistry. Great characters. Buzz and Woody, like I mentioned earlier, are 2 of my favorite characters of all time. Buzz especially. And it's because of this movie. It's enjoyable, has some great fun moments, it's entertaining, a wonderful story. While the animation can feel a little outdated, that is part of the charm of this movie. And man, it is very nostalgic for me. Both this one and Toy Story 2 are very nostalgic for me. I watched them a ton as a kid. But coming in the number 1 spot still is Monsters, Inc. I really love this movie. The score is great. The story is wonderful and fun and charming and funny and adventurous. Mike and Sully are a great dynamic duo, and we get some really great villains here as well. Some great plot twists, not for the sake of a plot twist, but to add to the story. And it's a very unique idea of monsters in the closet. That's something that's been a joke or a memory I think every single one of us has had of, oh, there's monsters in our bed, when we run to mom and dad, or there's monsters in our closet. And taking that idea and spinning on it is really unique and really fun, super enjoyable. I love this movie. It has everything you want from a Pixar movie and more. And so that is my list. That is the current list of all 28 Pixar movies that I've released so far. Now, of course, we'll wait till March when Elio comes out. That is the next Pixar film on the docket. But let me know your list down in the comments below. And if you don't have an entire list, that's okay. Share with me your top 10, top 5, top 3, number 1. Doesn't matter to me. Hey, that rhymed, kind of. But let's chat Pixar down in the comments below. Let's keep it respectful. Let's have fun with it. This was just my list, so I would love to know yours. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a big thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. Helps me know what you like, what you don't like. And that being said, if you are brand new, I want to say a special welcome to you. Thanks for joining me today as we rank through all of Pixar's greatest hits and some not so much. But be sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell to be notified for more videos just like this one. I will see you all in the next video. Words are hard. Have a great day. Goodbye.